Today we're making carne asada two ways. When you buy a T-bone, you have the filet mignon portion and you have the strip steak portion. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this carne asada style, but this filet mignon I'm going to keep it just as a steak, and then the strip steak I'm going to cook it for taco meat, so for carne asada tacos. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the marinade and the dressing that we'll use for the final cook. It's going to be the same exact thing, but we're just going to separate it. First things first, we're going to cut up this onion as small as we can. We want to make it as fine as possible because more surface area means more flavor. We're going to do the same thing with the garlic. We're going to try and make it as small as possible, and the same thing with the cilantro. The cilantro we're using Seminole. Stem has more flavor than the actual leaf, so try and use that as much as I can. Alright, so now we have our onion, garlic, and cilantro all finely minced. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to try and emulsify our liquids and our powders. So right here we have about a tablespoon of lemon juice. So we'll put that in there. We have some Maggie sauce. So I'm going to put about a tablespoon as well in there. A little bit of chili powder, just a couple shakes, or one shake, that came out right there. And then a tiny bit of salt. We already have a lot of Maggi, so just very, very little. And then about half a teaspoon of sugar. So what we're going to try and do now is emulsify our oil with what we have in here already. As we're mixing, I'm going to pour oil down there to try and get it to emulsify. So let me get it this way. We'll see what we can get. And this is what we have. Doesn't seem like a lot. But for one steak, it's plenty. It's good, but it could use a little bit more salt. Yep, that's good. So, what we're gonna do now is we're going to put all of this in there. If you're wondering why I didn't just throw everything into the blender and just mix it, I want to see all the little bits of cilantro and onion and garlic when I cook it. So if I was to do it all at the same time, it would just break it down so much that you wouldn't be able to see what you're eating. I'm going to set some of it aside. You'll see why when we're cooking it, but this right here is what we'll use to marinate the steak. We'll put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in the refrigerator for at least a couple hours. So we're gonna make some guac to go along with our carne asada. We have a couple avocados, half a lime, a small onion, tomato, a little bit of cilantro, 2 jalapenos, some salt, and we're definitely gonna use the 2 avocados. We'll see how much that yields, and then that'll determine how much of everything else I'm gonna want to use. So let's get into these avocados. I feel like they're about ready. Let's see. Yeah, perfect. So scoop them out. So I'm gonna scoop them into the same container that I'm gonna serve them out of, because I don't feel like dirtying a crapola ton of stuff and having to wash it. This right here. Just start mashing them. Mash it as much or as little as you want. I don't like to mash mine too much. I think that's perfect actually. So now, excuse me, I'm gonna do the onion. Yeah, let me start off with half an onion, and then we'll go from there. You can dice it in as big or as small pieces as you want. I'll go for like medium. Decent crunch to counteract the creaminess of the avocado. Yeah, I think that's actually going to be perfect amount of onions, so I don't need to cut that other half. Tomato, I am going to use the full tomato just because I do not feel like having half a tomato sit in my refrigerator. I feel like half an onion would do a lot better. If you don't like the insides, just get a spoon and scoop it out. I really don't care, and I don't feel like wasting food, so I'm just gonna keep it in there. Also, decent size pieces, not super tiny, because since it is not as firm as like the onions and stuff, they will break apart a little bit. So if you cut them super small to begin with, then they'll just turn into kind of a mush when you mix it. So decent sized pieces. Looks like that might be, looks like we're getting kind of full there. It's alright. So when you're cutting jalapeno, again, you could dictate how spicy or not spicy you want it by taking out seeds or leaving them in. I'm going to leave them in. When you're doing jalapenos, try and cut the inside of it. I know it's kind of rocky, but if you sharpen your knife, it's fine. It should go through no problem. But if you don't sharpen your knife, and your knife is always dull, it might slide off the skin and cut your finger, so it'll catch the inside a little bit easier than it'll catch the outside if it's dull. Mine is not dull. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is the cilantro. I'm going to do one more pass. I don't want to make it super tiny. I want you to know that there is cilantro in there. perfect. Alright, now I'm gonna get the lime. This is actually an orange juicer, but why buy a lime juicer or a lemon juicer or an orange type of juicer when you can just buy this and it works with all of them. So I might have to put another half of a lime, but we'll see once we taste it. And a couple pinches salt. Mix it, and then we'll taste. Yeah, needs a tiny bit more lime juice. So I have a lime that I sort of half used for something the other day. And perfect. Alright, so it's been about a little over 2 hours. Steak should be marinated. So right before we get to that though, take out some green onions. And we are just going to cut the tops right off. And we're going to set that aside. So I have the oven preheating to 420 degrees. And I'm about to turn on my skillet on just about high heat. Look at that. Oh man. So we could get it seared and then we'll throw it in the oven. Alright, so I don't know if you could see it, but there's like small wisps of smoke coming from the skillet. Once you see that, you know it's hot enough to start searing. Oil. Make sure you have a fan going and windows open so that way your smoke alarm doesn't go off like mine might. Before I put it on, I patted it down with a towel just so you get a better sear on it. And you're going to want to let it go for 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes on each side. And that noise you heard is my oven. It's letting me know it's at 420 now. Alright, so it's been about 2 minutes. So we're going to flip it right over. Alright. I'm going to flip it again. And then we're going to put it in the oven. Alright, so while the steak's in the oven, I'm going to start heating up this pan, and we're going to start cooking off those green onions that I cut the tops off of. Alright, so add a little bit of oil. And drop these bad boys in. It's okay if they don't lay flat as they heat up, to loosen up a bit and they'll lay flat on there. Alright, so let's see if these are ready to turn over. Trying to get a little bit of color. You don't want to cover it yet. A lot of moisture will start collecting and then you'll start steaming them as opposed to getting color on them. So I just checked the steak. It's looking great. It's about ready to take off. Woo. Turn this over again. Alright, now that we're starting to see a little bit of color on these, I can turn the heat from high down to about 3. Add the butter. And then remember that little bit of let's see, onion, garlic, cilantro oil that I made earlier that we reserved. So now we're gonna put it right on there. Okay. Turn this over. That on there. Turn it over again. And then this is ready, so I'm just gonna pick it up, put it on there, and we're gonna let it rest for 10 minutes. Woo! Looking good. It's perfect. Alright, so now add a little bit of salt. A little bit of garlic powder. Mix it around one more time. And then we're going to let it rest. While the steak is resting, we're going to clean this pan off real quick. Get it hot again, which I already have it hot. I'm gonna put it about a medium. Put just a bit of oil. With a couple tortillas. Alright, once you see these little bubbles sort of start to appear, flip it over. Alright, so they're done. Looks like we're ready to eat some steak and carne asada tacos. Hey. Now. Alright, so first things first, let's try the steak. Very fancy. Oh, mama. Oh, looks so good. Alright. Wow. Make sure you taste the marinade before you marinate the steak, because the salt level on here is perfect, and it's because I tasted it first before I marinated the steak. So just make sure you do that. Oh my god, it'll be perfect. It doesn't need anything else. Wow. See how these green onions taste? Could have used a little more salt, but it's fine. Here's the carne asada taco. Real quick. Perfect. See color on that? Probably went a little bit over. But, oh, that's good. So, success. Any tips, ideas, suggestions, please comment below. Have a good one.